I want to turn our attention to the Victorian debt, which is just crippling the state. They released their mid-year budget update confirming that debt has blown out by billions of dollars in just 7 months. Let's bring in Shadow Victorian Treasurer Brad Roswell. Nice to catch up with you again. Treasurer Pallas this week defended the economic strategy, insists the money has to be spent to grow the economy. He's kidding himself, isn't he?
Well, Steve, the bloke's got rocks in his head, and that's putting it politely. In the May budget, we had a net debt of $171 billion, and just on Friday we learned that debt has grown by just over $1 billion a month in the months between May and December. That is absolutely crazy stuff, and it can only be achieved by really a Labor government, whether it's under the flavour of Andrews or Allen.
Well, Dan Andrews has walked out the door with his fat pension and he doesn't care anymore. So Jacinta Allen's been given the hospital hand pass. Do you have any confidence that she's got the ability to fix this problem?
Well, I am always a hopeful person, Steve. I'm always trying to be an optimistic person, but the debt's continuing to grow. I mean, we've got more debt in Victoria than New South Wales, Queensland and Tasmania combined. We've got the highest taxes in the nation. We've got the highest property taxes in the nation. We're paying something like $24 million in interest each and every day in Victoria. Now that's akin to, drawing $24 million out of the ATM, shoving it in a trash can and setting it alight. That is the tragedy of this. When they've got tax incomes increasing more than they expected by about $1 billion, and they're taxing more at the same time, when their debt continues to rise, it's an economic basket case here in Victoria. And I have no confidence that the Labor government here in Victoria is going to do anything differently anytime soon.
Well, the new Premier signed onto that suburban rail loop, actually signed a contract. I mean, how she could do that is completely beyond me. So it seems a leopard doesn't change its spots. To commit to that project is economic suicide. That is ridiculous.
Look, perhaps, Steve, but here's the thing that I'd like to point out about that. They signed onto that suburban rail loop contract only days before knowing that their other project, the North East Link, had blown out from $5 billion, which it was initially costed at, to something like $26 billion. And, an international ratings agency, Standard & Poor's today, has really just called them out on it. Again, because of the economic mismanagement of the now Allen Labor government, Victoria's credit rating is put at further risk. Now, for those people watching at home who don't know the first thing about a credit rating, and fair dinkum, I don't blame them at all, but here's the deal. You've got, if your credit rating goes down, that means your state's interest rates rise, which means you're paying more interest. And my fear is that as interest rates rise because our credit rating goes down, that means that the Labor government here in Victoria is going to be taxing Victorians more. I mean, Victorians are already feeling the pinch only days before Christmas. This year alone, energy bills increased by 25% for households, 26% for businesses. Cost of living's through the roof. People are experiencing that at the grocery store. There are decisions that the Allen Labor government can make now to ease that cost of living pressure, and they're just not. They're continuing to tax more than any other state in the nation. They're continuing to waste more than any other state in the nation, and they're not going to change type today, and that is the greatest tragedy. And Victorians really need to wake up and to understand the impact on them of electing a Labor government.
We've got a rental housing crisis, and this government, of course, in the last budget slapped on more property taxes for people who are investors. And you walk around the streets, suburban streets of Melbourne, and in every street you see for sale, and I think this is a really interesting observation, block after block of one-bedroom, at most two-bedroom apartments. They are small property investors who've said, I've had enough of this. I'm not going to pay these property taxes. I'm going to sell and I'm going to reinvest in another state.
Well, they are indeed doing that, Steve. And look, the tragedy of this is simply that because of the economic circumstance that the Labor government in this state has got us into, it means that people who are at their wits' end, people who really do need support and help, aren't getting it. Because if you're wasting money with one hand, it means you can't support people who need that help with the other, because you just don't have the cash. You just don't have the money. In Victoria today, we're talking about potential cuts to health. Now, we're in the middle of a health crisis here in Victoria. At the same time, they're taxing you to go visit your GP. We're the highest state in the nation to send your kid to a state school, and yet our education standards in this state are flatlining. We've got a crime crisis on our hands in many parts of the state. Home invasions are back on the agenda, and you've got police numbers at an all-time low, and a lack of police investment with new police not coming online for some time. These are the fundamentals of a state government: service delivery and infrastructure delivery, and on all counts, Labor are simply failing.
Brad, just finally, I mean, they won an election not that long ago, last year. And so we're a long way away from the next one. How bad do you think things are going to be by the time you get another opportunity to take control of the purse strings?
Steve, I reflect upon that quite often, actually, because I'm not just Victoria's Shadow Treasurer, I'm Victoria's Alternative Treasurer as a member of Victoria's alternative government. I've put my hand up to try and fix the mess that Labor have created. That's my obligation to do that, because we've got to do things better. And I'm already thinking about ways that we can do that better. Earlier this year, we instigated a tax discussion paper, which has received, 1,000 plus submissions from people right around the state, all impacted by Labor's taxes and all wanting to see our state grow. We've got to cut waste, more than $38 billion of waste on major projects in the last 9 years under the Labor administration. We've got to grow the economic pie. We've got to roll out the red carpet to businesses right around this state and right around this country to return to Victoria, because at the moment, when businesses are impacted by state government taxes here in Victoria, they're making their next big investment decision in another state. And that's bad for our economy here in Victoria. That's bad for Victorian jobs. And it means that we're actually shrinking the economic pie at a time when we need to be creating opportunity for everyone.